Once again, we're nosing around the incredible buildings which are in the running for this year's House of the Year prize. So far, we've seen some extraordinary experimental homes, and some remarkable homes which stitch themselves into their surroundings. In today's episode, we're looking at a category of houses that are all down to earth. At the end of the episode, we'll find out which of the spectacular houses on the long list have been shortlisted by the judges from the Royal Institute of British Architects. And at the end of the series, we'll learn which of these has won the 2019 House of the Year Award. We're halfway through our grand tour of this year's long-listed houses. So far, 4 buildings have made it onto the shortlist. Nithurst Farm, an essay in historical references that's also a progressive family home. The small but perfectly formed pocket house. The restorative rural retreat which hunkers down into its wild setting. And the dramatic shadowy black house on the Isle of Skye. This time we're looking at 5 more houses from the long list, all down to earth, all delightful company. Hungry to see our first down-to-earth house, Damien is in County Down, Northern Ireland. A place of rolling greenery dotted with farms. But one of these barny buildings isn't what it seems. This is House Lessans. An L-shaped building of perfectly pitched zinc roofs over cool concrete blockwork, built next to an existing barn. It was the work of architect Kieran McGonigle.
When you're coming down from the road, you could almost mistake it for being an agricultural building.
That was the intention. The existing barn is basically corrugated steel on a masonry base, and the client came to us and they knew they wanted to retain the barn and to add a building onto the site which complemented the barn. So it was to be reference to the existing barn, but different. After all, it's a house, it's not a barn.
Which is clear from the interiors, where you'll find a lesson in grey minimalism, all geared around the views. The house is divided into sleeping and living zones. In the living, there's a generous double-height sitting room with an open-plan kitchen and pantry tucked away. Beyond this, there's a snug. Above the pantry, there's a study with a gallery. Across the hallway is the sleeping block, also double-height. There are 3 bedrooms of equal size looking out onto a courtyard. Between them is the only bathroom. There's no second floor to speak of, so you enter into a main space with a lot of ceiling. The RIBA judges admired this as an unfussy but sophisticated home with expansive living spaces. Kieran's even squeezed in a mezzanine office with a clever pantry below. Continue a few steps beyond that, and you're in the snug.
The feel is very cosy, it's very intimate, but it's still got this great height.
It's meant to be an evening room, so this is at the west side of the house and gets the evening sun through the windows, but we also have a roof light getting morning sun, so it can be used in the morning as well.
The huge volumes have been broken up with one horizontal line that runs around the entire house, white above, grey below, to give the rooms a familiar scale and avoid any whiff of the art gallery. This place is a great achievement, considering it cost about £1,400 a square metre. That's less than half the cost of the average top-end self-build. To do this, Kieran put a lot of thought into what to build a house from.
We knew we could create interesting spaces using very basic building materials. These bricks, they are the cheapest bricks we could find. They're a concrete brick.
That's clever stuff, because concrete bricks, they're not even meant to be seen. They're meant to be sort of used out of sight or below ground.
Kieran's made inexpensive materials look high-end by finishing them beautifully, with flush mortar joints and careful painting, which has allowed him to spend the real money on keeping the rain out. The zinc roof is magnificently crafted, though the glazing is mainly big fixed panes of glass with occasional openers for ventilation, cheaper than bifold doors. Those big windows, the high barn-like ceilings, are everywhere throughout the house.
This is no ordinary hallway. I mean, it's the ceiling height, the way that it just explodes up. And this wonderful datum line that just travels all the way down.
And into 3 identical and modestly sized bedrooms.
They're small. They're not generous at all. But we have created a large-scale window here to the garden, to the courtyard, which gives a feeling of a spacious room. It makes the room feel twice the size.
The couple who commissioned this house are Sylvia and Michael, who were looking to build a new home where their grown-up children could come back to and stay. The identical rooms, with no one master bedroom, comes from Sylvia's democratic approach to sleeping arrangements. Each bedroom is fiercely identical. They even have to share the only bathroom in the house. Increasingly rare in the age of the ensuite. In House Lessons, Kieran demonstrates that architecture can work really hard for the money. House Lessons makes the everyday magical. Grounded in its rural setting, but with a soaring heart and an ambitious attention to detail.
Making great architecture doesn't have to cost the earth, and nor should it. And this house proves that perfectly.
That's what's happened with our next building on the long list, deep in rural Northamptonshire, where down-to-earth farm buildings have inspired an architectural marvel. This is Hannington Farm. A rather epic rural home wrapped in the language of regional rubblestone, but which also reaches for the sky. A proper country farmhouse that's also architecturally ambitious and comfortably glamorous. It was commissioned by Giles and Polly, who have a long-standing connection to the area. And it's an idyllic place to raise their 2 boys, Max and Jack. This rooted agricultural home is built in a Y-shaped plan. In the stem of the Y, there's a wing with a kitchen and living area at the front, and a formal living and dining room at the back, with the master bedroom suite upstairs. The triple-height atrium in the middle links everything, while at the rear is a functional wing with garage, storage and snug on the ground floor and kids' bedrooms upstairs. Then at the front left is a fun block with swimming pool, gym and wine room below and a guest bedroom above. How are you?
Good, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, what beautiful, beautiful place. This is in the great kind of tradition of the grander farmhouse. Assembling one house by connecting 3 apparently separate buildings is a respectful exercise in modesty, the opposite of a posh facade on a lowly hovel. This broken composition that imitates the vernacular, the regional materials and the traditional techniques all caught the eye of the RIBA judges, who particularly admired the historical use of differently sized stone-roofed tiles.
It's a very old traditional method with decreasing sizes of tiles as you go up. So actually during the build again, you're very excited when you first see the first couple of rows go up in quite big tiles. It happens quite quickly, and then progressively it gets slower and slower towards the ridge. Yeah. But actually the finished result is magnificent.
It's like a fake perspective, isn't it?
It is.
It kind of melds back.
I love it. It's like an armoured effect. The peg tiles just wrap around the whole building.
Like a little animal there.
Yeah. Like an armadillo, as I say.
Yeah, sticking out, yeah. Hannington Farm doesn't just execute traditional craftsmanship beautifully. It has some modern edge and flair, too. The chimneys are a noticeable flourish. You got some big chimneys.
We've got some very large chimneys, 3 of them.
Yeah.
It's not everybody's cup of tea, if I'm honest.
The shapes were inspired partly by factory chimneys, mixing farmhouse earthiness with a bit of industrial grit. Head inside, though, and you need to leave your work boots at the door. The triple-height hallway that connects the different parts of the house at every level is fitting for a grand country house. Oh, yeah, that's something else. Oh my goodness, you see right up to the ridge?
Yeah, all the way up.
Down a narrow glass corridor with views out to an industrial Japanese garden, you find another remarkable volume, the living room. Oh, this is big. Wow. I think this is magnificent. Praise be, because this is a home that tends to the spirit, mind, and body too. There are too many choices. Beautiful as it is, I think I could live without one of those. Although, drink with due care and attention here, because this house defies the rule of gravity in places. The stairs appear to hover in mid-air. The staircases all seem to be free-flying.
Yeah.
Like they do in Harry Potter. You know, nothing's fixed.
I imagined it was going to wobble when I first walked up it.
It doesn't.
But it doesn't.
No, this is the magical thing. What holds these up is the wizardry of steel. From the small shadows cast by the rhythmical patterns of the windows in the corridor to the surprisingly large master bedroom on the top floor. As well as steel, this house makes use of one other modern material to help form these big spaces. Cross-laminated timber, or CLT. It was James Gorst, their architect, who chose it. Hannington Farm may seem big and grand, but this places it in a great tradition of deeply rooted, gentrified country homes. Like a Roman villa or French vineyard mansion, it connects Giles and Polly to the land their families have farmed for so long. This place is the work of a master architect, skilled in taking the traditional and somehow reinventing it. And in so doing, what he's done with familiar materials is create also a new narrative for this building and for this place. And that narrative, which I love, is a sort of tease, which suggests somehow that nestling in amongst these complex shapes is one, or perhaps two, ancient old rustic structures that are still there.